Good morning. My name is Luke Padla, and this is Group A3's presentation on worship and self-understanding, with our specific focus of adoration being wealth and how that leads to dehumanization and loss of dignity. I want to start by identifying what is worship. We define it as an act of personal living sacrifice to express reverence and homage to God. Paul in Romans says that true and proper worship is to present our bodies as a living sacrifice. Eugene Peterson, despite his controversies, says that worship is an act that develops feelings for God, not feelings that are resulted in an act. Aquinas builds on this in that saying that worship is an obligation that man actually has to show reverence for God because of his condition. And then lastly, Easton in the Easton Bible Dictionary describes adoration, or to adore, is to worship and to express that reverence for God. And they even point out different forms of adoration that the Jews took in their traditions to adore and worship God. We're going to specifically talk about the adoration of wealth, which we define as for a love for and fixation on the acquiring and preservation of material goods, typically displayed through financial gain. And so while money is not a bad thing in and of itself, in abundance it does become a bad thing, which makes it a vice of excess. Paul even points out the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, so much so that it even leads people away from the faith. Some examples of it is living sparingly to save money, never being happy with the amount of money that you have, and I think my favorite is like Scrooge McDuck, where he has so much money that he can even swim in it. And everything that he does is all to keep that money and to get more. A perfect example of someone who adores wealth and adores money.
Alright, so the wealth mentality trap. This mindset of seeking wealth comes from an outlook that focuses on idolizing worldly possessions as the only source of meaning in life. It boils down to three main categories. The first is security, the second is happiness, and the third is legacy. People can get trapped by thinking the source of their security is a large house, lots of land, could be money, a job, or even one's health. People can also get trapped by placing worldly pleasures as their only source of happiness, which can include luxury cars, expensive clothing, or even a possible private jet. People can also get trapped by the third way, by the thought of a legacy. Individuals can place too much of an importance on a sort of dynasty, in today's terms, that they could build.
Greed isn't justified like in the movies where an angry mob boss wants to get a bunch of money as some end. It's not arbitrary. It's usually justified in fear or distrust in the provision that one needs. One usually wants wealth or property for good reasons, and especially at first. But the original motivation for that wealth can be forgotten, and the habitual desire built up and continues snowballing. As Aquinas says, evil is different from good, which every agent intends. Therefore, evil happens beside the intention. And so a misplacement of wealth in your heart is not merely a matter of moral correction, but of idolatry slipping in, like fear. The root of idolatry, I would say there is fear. And it is a fear of being left without something or needing to work your way back to something. In this case, one is driven by the fear of God not providing the support for yourself or for others. And if only you were able to see God as he is, then wealth would no longer be an idol.
So there's a character from history. His name is Hermann Göring. There's an interesting article that's extremely educational and scholarly that is by someone named Dr. Rothfield. Then it was presented at the American Historical Association annual meeting. It basically goes over Hermann's huge art collection that he had and a lot about his life and military tactics. And so honestly, this was someone who was a hero, a war hero from World War I, who came back and was corrupted by Adolf Hitler and was lured into pursuing wealth over maintaining himself morally. And it was an absolutely devastating case. But it's easy to understand why this happens. If we look at neuroscience, the basal ganglia is one of our more primitive, it's actually our most primitive part of the brain, and it's located just at the center of our brains, and it's disproportionately affected by receiving monetary benefit. And so this really just goes to show the importance of Matthew 6:24 and maintaining the idea that we can't serve two masters at the same time, and we need to maintain God first.
Okay, my slide is about how wealth can take away from human purpose and dignity. The Bible states that our purpose is to love God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love our neighbors as ourselves. And humans go against this purpose and lose our dignity in the pursuit of wealth. It's dehumanizing for a person to spend all their time focused on money, and it pulls them away from their true purpose of loving God. Money is also becomes a type of idol where they're worshiping it more than they're worshiping their creator. Others choose to dishonor themselves and God by selling their bodies. They're trading dignity for money. This dishonors God because we have been told in Genesis 1:27 that we're created in his image, and 1 Corinthians 6:19-20 that our bodies are a temple. People also dishonor their neighbor by stealing or cheating others for personal gain, where they're putting wealth above worshiping God and honoring and loving their neighbor. My final point is that we were made to worship God and not the desires of the flesh, as stated in John 2:16. And we are betraying our purpose and denying God the glory he is owed when we worship money over other things.